What's up, everybody? I'm Matt. This is Religion Speed. Welcome to another episode. We are on a roll with these episodes, aren't we? Maybe I'll actually stick with this. I don't stick with anything. Anyways, today we have a new project car. I've been hinting at it for a long time, and now it is finally time to get some work done on it. So let's cut to that beauty footage. Yep, that's right. Here she is. The four-door AE92 Corolla. You know, the best Corolla ever made. That's probably going to be argued a lot. So, what is this car? Why do I have this car? Well, it's coming up on, nearly 2 years now. It's been so long. Why have I had this car so long? That I was just browsing Craigslist here at work one time. And I had some money burning a hole in my pocket. And I was like, I want something. I don't know what it is, but I want something. Browsing through, and I found this Corolla. 400,000 mile AE92 four-door stick shift for, what was he asking? I think he was asking $400. So, being that he was asking $400, I decided to call him up and ask him if he would take $250. I don't know, that's what I had laying around. That's what I had in like my pocket at the time or something. Not expecting him to take that offer. That was such a low ball. But he said, yeah, sure, whatever. I was like, all right. So I went that night and I picked her up. I had no clue what I was going to do with it. I just knew it was a $250 car and maybe I'll just drive it in the field for a while and smash it. I don't know. And then I kind of fell in love with it because I love old Japanese cars. And slowly started doing some work to it, but it's getting to the point now where it needs to be done. I have been storing this thing at work for too long. It just gathers dust, and then I do a little bit, then it gathers dust, and I do a little bit. This is it. We're finishing this car, and it's going to be damn cool. So let's go over what I did so far and what the plan is here. As you can see, the engine bay has been cleaned up as much as possible. I replaced pretty much every single gasket on this engine because every single gasket on this engine was leaking. Full tune-up, new belt, deleted the AC, deleted the power steering, so that's why we have this kind of weird belt set up here. New timing belt, shimmed the oil pump to try to make this 400,000 mile engine last a little bit longer. This is an NB Miata radiator. Same Miata that the sway bar in the Fiesta is now made from. Or no, sorry. That was the Mercedes, but I do have that sway bar sitting over there. But yes, this is an NB Miata radiator that I adapted. The stock one in this car was a full copper unit and leaking like crazy. So this is like a quarter of the weight, which is awesome. And yeah, just made some little tabs for it. Custom hose, good to go. Other than that, it is completely stock. I do plan on doing some stuff with the engine later, but let's be fair, this is a 4 AFE engine. It's never going to make that much power. I'm not too worried about it. Because it's not going to make power, the whole goal here was to make this thing as light as possible, which is why it has zero interior and this one Jegs racing seat. I guess I do have the passenger seat in there right now. I might actually take that out. I don't know. Maybe I'll leave it in there to give people rides. This thing's never going to be that serious of a race car. But yeah, just trying to get as much weight out of this as possible. That's why I deleted the power steering, the AC, anything in the engine bay was already gone. So we're going to clear out the interior as well and make it as light as possible. So that's what we've done so far. Make it light, make it run, make it not leak like crazy. Pretty easy. Also, I put a clutch in that. It's an eBay clutch. Not sure how well that's going to hold up. But yeah, the whole goal of this car is to just build a car for as cheap as possible. So far, I think I'm at $750. But let's cut to the whiteboard and we'll do a little add up real quick.
Alright, I lied. The whiteboard's being used for something else. So instead, you get this nice picture of Iggy with some text over it. It'll work. So here's the cost breakdown. Iggy himself costs $250. Nice and cheap. Brake stuff, $65. And that includes pads, rear drums from the junkyard, and hardware. If you're wondering how I get this stuff for so cheap, Rock Auto, especially for old cars like this, Rock Auto has just get the closeout stuff. These aren't performance parts that we're using for the most part. They were just cheap brake pads and cheap hardware. But hey, surprisingly, it all worked. And most of it was CarQuest parts anyways, so I think it was all old stock. Anyways, moving on. The clutch, like I said, that's an eBay clutch, $70. Seals and gaskets, Rock Auto again, for the win, $60. Tune-up parts, Rock Auto again, $45. Tires, $220. I don't think I actually showed what we're running. We're running Federal SS 595s. They're cheap performance tires, and I use performance very, very loosely. The seatbelt harness, that was $100. That is an actual Corbeau 3-point or 3-point tie-down, I guess you would say. Either way, it's a legit harness because I'm not skimping there. The used seat, that's a Jegs Racing seat. Once again, not skimping there. Those are safety things. I am not going to go to eBay for that stuff. Our wheel spacers were $54. The struts, like I said earlier, $100, nice and cheap. Coilovers, $40. Those are all eBay. The tachometer, which has not been installed yet, $16. The catch can, which is loosely installed, $23, and then about $30, maybe $40 worth of miscellaneous stuff, but I'm going to mark it as $30. So that brings us to a total of $1,133.
So that's what we're sitting at for a total so far. Not too bad for what we got. Now, there's some parts on that list you may have seen that aren't on the car yet, and that's what we're going to do today. Today, our goal is to get this thing low and looking better. Now, I only got 2 wheels done, but I brought them here and mounted the tires up because we're going to put this thing on coilovers. We're going to lower it, and the wheels I got are going to stick out past the fenders a lot. So I need to know what kind of fender flares to order. In fact, let's go take a look at those coilovers right now. So here is what I have come up with for coilovers. Because I am so cheap, I didn't want to even go out and buy the really cheap coilovers you can buy on eBay. I knew I could do it for less. So these are Maxorber, it's hard to say, struts for this car. I think I got the whole set for $100. Well, you'll see it on the whiteboard. This coilover set was about $30. These top hats are actually from a GC8 Subaru Impreza coilover. What are those cheap ones? Hold on, I can see this. Max speeding rods. Yeah, that's what they are. But these are the top hats from that. And believe it or not, they pretty much bolt right up. Got to auger out the strut tower a little bit to fit this, but not much. So that was cool that I had these laying around. Well, my coworker had these laying around, and he didn't want to use them. So that means in the front, we're actually going to have some decent camber adjustment. Cool. The rear is pretty much just going to be the stock top hat and same kind of setup down here. I only have one of these assembled so far, so we have to assemble the other front one, remove the rear struts, get the top mounts off the rear struts, and get the rears assembled, and get this baby back on the ground to get the wheels on to see what kind of fender flares we need. Lots of steps, but baby steps, one step at a time, right? Let's get to it. All right, well, we got one of the coilovers strut things installed loosely as a test fit here. It does fit. Surprisingly, this $20 shock does fit. I don't have the brake line hooked up to this one yet. I'm going to show you guys a little trick in the future here about how to get those things in there. Also flipped around the bolt so I don't have to take the caliper off anymore to remove the strut in the future. And if we go up here, there's our fancy looking top mount, full cambered out right there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So as we sit right now, we got quite a bit of loose springiness. Set this at the 40 mark. Don't know what that actually is going to mean on this, but just so that way I know where to set the other one. But for right now, we have to assemble the next coilover, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Alright, so here's all the components we need to assemble another one of these front coilovers. Everything we need right here. $25 per, or $20, we'll say 20. Let's just say 20. This is about $8 right here. This was free. This was free. This is a bump stop. You do want some sort of bump stop in there. This is a progressive style bump stop. As you can see, this first part is pretty easy to collapse. Second part a little harder. Next part basically solid. So that might kind of help us because we are not running sway bars on this car. AE92 sedans did not come with sway bars. So we're going to try to use bump stops to kind of keep the roll from being too bad. Also, these springs are going to be so fucking stiff, it's probably not going to roll anyways. So here is our old strut. Ugh. She's dirty, she's rusty, she's worn out, for sure. So this is going in the garbage. Alright, first things first. Most struts ship like with a little tie down on them. Or, I know that some of them in rows, you have to like twist the shaft and then it pops back out. But easy enough, just compress that by hand. Boom. Strut extends, that's garbage now. Set the nut to the side. Now, one thing we're going to have to do is this little guy right here. All this does is, well, let me show you. It's easier for me to show you. Nope, that's not going to work. Okay, that's where your bump stop hits. This is not a seal. The seal is inside here. So you could take this off, but since this is where your bump stop rides, you don't want to be smashing into the end seal here. Only problem is, I ran into this with the other one. You're going to stay put. Thank you. Take our coilover sleeve. Here's our sleeve. And this is the bottom of it. I'm going to put that on there. It doesn't like to go past here. So what I did on the last one is I took this to the grinder and just ground it down until this would move past. That was also cool because that kept this thing from moving around. And we were able to put like a little rubber, one of their little rubber bands, a whole bunch of big old O-rings, and that's how you center the coilover sleeve on your strut. It's all pretty poorly engineered, but it will work. So first things first, I'm going to go grind this away. Well, I'll show you the other thing I'm going to do while I cut away. Grind that down, and also the top here, this is your top spring perch, that's got to go about here. Problem is, this is way too small for that shaft. There's no way. I think they did that on purpose. This is aluminum, it's easy to drill. You just drill it out to whatever size you need, that way it's nice and centered on here. Because not all struts are the same, so if they were just make this huge, that'd be an issue. So they probably just made it too small, you gotta drill it out yourself. Luckily, I ordered a 15mm drill bit. That was a weird size to order, weird size to find. And I'm gonna drill that out. The other one, I just kind of used the auger out method. It worked, but it wasn't exactly pretty. So this one I got a drill bit. So I'm gonna drill that out, grind that down, and be back in a second. Alright, while I was grinding away, this thing's still pretty hot by the way, this thing just decided to expand and pop off the end of the strut. So now I can show you guys, there's your seal, right in there. And if you had your bump stop on there, it'd be kind of bashing into that seal a bunch. Wear it out, blow it out, and then you need new struts. So you do want these. So I already used this opportunity while I was off to put one of the O-rings on there. had to go with the smallest O-ring they had. Let me tap this bad boy back on with the biggest hammer I have. Boom, tap back on, well, tap back on. And I think that's small enough, I sure hope it is, that we can finally get this on there. I'm actually going to put a little bit of lube in here because metal on metal doesn't always work well. So this is just some ceramic brake goop, basically, brake grease for brake pads and stuff. But it works pretty good with any sort of metal on metal thing. Look at that. That did not want to go on there that easy the first time. And get this O-ring in there, and roll the O-ring in. There you go. Oh, look, I even got the orientation pretty much right. That is beautiful. Set to 40, like we wanted before. Now, some people like to use the little set screws, but we aren't really going to be able to. It is past the strut, so meh. This is fine. Next, bump stop. Jesus. Come on, baby. There we go. Bump stop is on there. Got this drilled out, so we're going to put, well, first we're going to put the spring on. I guess we want a spring in there, don't we? I have no idea what this spring rate is. A lot. That's what the spring rate is. That guy. Got that guy. Now, one issue I've been running into that I'm not too happy with, but, you know, we got to do what we got to do, is, hold on, where did that guy go? I need another piece. This guy. So what this does is it sits in our top mount here in order to make it raise up a little more, because otherwise, if we didn't have that guy in there, what would happen is we wouldn't have enough clearance between our upper spring perch and our mount for it to actually articulate. Because it has to. Every time that strut moves, you know, with whether it's turned, your toe is turned, or your steering wheel's turned, your toe is turned. Anyways, it's got to move quite a bit, more than you would think. So, problem with that is, though, once we have this on here, all the way, this in here, and then that on top of here, there are not a whole lot of threads sticking out of the end of that for us to grip down on. I have not figured out a solution for that yet, but I think I might have one. So there's actually two parts to this collar. There's supposed to be a top part and a bottom part. But I think you can see the bottom part has the big collar for the spacer. Top part has a smaller collar. I think using the smaller collar, we will still have enough clearance to articulate quite a bit. I'm going to try the small spacer, and eventually I'm going to have to tear all that other coil over and swap that spacer. I'll probably do that off camera here. But that does give us quite a bit more threads, at least a couple more. You know, it makes me feel a lot better, because if that comes off and you deload the car at all, this whole coilover is just going to explode into a million pieces. Which may be bad. But that right there is basically it. Everything's loose still. You know, nuts are still loose. This is all still loose. But that's all you really need to do to have a coilover on your car. Now, you will notice we're keeping the stock spring perch on here, because I'm afraid if I cut this down, it's not going to have enough structural rigidity. And this sleeve is just going to push the rest of this metal down and just blow past it. With this little lip on there, this thing is pretty rigid. I'm not too worried about going anywhere. And nobody's going to see it. It's not going to interfere with the tire. I don't care. We're leaving it. So let's get this one in the car. And maybe I'll lower it down and just see where it sits at 40 here. So, like I said, or was saying, before I was so rudely interrupted by the air compressor again, the main reason I want to get all this stuff in today is mostly for a test fit. That is the way aftermarket stuff goes. You have to kind of tweak it, test fit it, try it again, test fit it again. Welcome to the world of modifying cars. It's never straightforward. But the main reason is I'm pretty dang sure we're going to need fender flares, because I have a set of wheels right here. Yum. Oh yeah, look at those beauties. These are old AF Ultra Racing wheels I got for free off of a old 240Z. Customer was upgrading to a nice set of Watanabe wheels. These things looked like absolute garbage. Cut to the footage of what they looked like before.
So as you can see, these wheels were just absolutely gross, covered in corrosion. The inside had probably 20, 30, 40 years worth of asbestos brake dust built up on them. So as a note, when you're cleaning old wheels like this or doing brakes on old cars, always, always, always wear a mask. But yeah, these things were gross. We just sanded them down, painted them, and hey, now they look like new.
But now they're all painted up. Used some duplicolor wheel paint on them. That is all I did. Just cleaned them up and painted them with rattle cans. They came out really well. Only problem is with the duplicolor wheel paint. As you can see, I already chipped it right here. That paint is not very strong. You got to be very careful with it. Which means, like, when we align this thing, I'm probably going to put the stock wheels back on, because otherwise the heads that we have on this alignment rack are probably going to wear through this paint. But the other problem is, some of you may already be knowing this, these come off a Z. That is old Nissan bolt pattern, 4x114.3. AE92 Corollas are 4x100. So that means we have to also use these spacers. So not only are we using rear-wheel drive offset wheels on a front-wheel drive car, we got 25 mil of spacer to put on here too. That's why I said we're probably going to need a fender flare. And it's going to look cool. I mean, yeah, the performance isn't going to be exactly perfect, but that is not the point of this car. Let's get these wheels on here, get it lowered, and see what she looks like. Oh man, this thing's gonna look tight. I'm excited. So it's actually not sticking out nearly as much as I anticipated. Like, yeah, we got some poke there, but I was thinking we're gonna have a lot more. In general though, yeah, I like that style. That has a 14-inch wheel on that. The only thing is, I have these coilovers set to the lowest setting currently. And we have about 2 inches of wheel gap there, which isn't bad. This thing, I'm not going for hella flush Stance Nation stuff going blah blah right now. But that poses a bit of an issue because this side's all the way down. And over here, this side is also all the way down, but we have like another half-inch gap there. Not to mention, that wheel is sticking out considerably more. I mean, I know this fender's dented in a little bit. Let's see if we can look at this a little more. Has that fender just dented in that much? Doesn't really look like it. No, it doesn't really look like it. So I gotta figure out what's going on this passenger side. Why is it higher up and sticking out more? But I feel like that's something for tomorrow. Well, it'll be tomorrow for you guys. The next day. Next weekend for me. Because it is getting late. And I need to go get food. And excuses.